Well, let's take a look now at the international newspapers with our press reviewer, Florence Vimino. Florence, thanks for joining us. Greece, then, of course, getting a lot of attention in the international papers today. Let's start by having a look at the Greek newspapers.
We can start with Tenea, the center-left paper, which focuses on Panayotis Pikramenos, the leader of the caretaker government that was sworn in yesterday. And he said yesterday, "Let us set the example with our morals and behavior." According to this article in Tenea, a lot of people outside of the government fear, however, that the country could implode in his hands. We're going to look at a conservative newspaper, Ketimereni, which says that electoral fever is growing among political parties shortly after this caretaker government was sworn in. New elections will be held on June the 17th. And according to this article, the far-left Syriza is rising in the polls and could get 21%.
Indeed, and the Wall Street Journal, in fact, has an interview with the leader of Syriza, who could, in fact, become Greece's next prime minister.
That's right. Alexis Tsipras, his party, as I was saying in these polls, he could win the next election. And it's quite surprising to see an interview from such a far-left candidate in such a conservative newspaper. And he has a very defiant message, what they say, from Greece. He says that he doesn't think that Europe is going to cut off funding to the country, because if they do, it'll drag down the rest of Europe. And he says that Greece will stop paying their debts if they stop getting money. So this 37-year-old says that he does want to have a European solution and he does want to stay within the Eurozone. But if push comes to shove, he says that Greece can manage on its own. And so according to the Wall Street Journal, he's playing chicken with his European creditors.
Okay, and the International Herald Tribune, meanwhile, trying to find a bit of humour amid all this chaos in Greece.
That's right. There's a cartoon where you see a cartoon of Greece that's falling apart, fighting among themselves, and then these bashful-looking representatives from the EU that say, Greece has a choice. You can either leave the euro or the euro will leave you. So things might be getting worse, according to the International Herald Tribune.
Bleak outlook there. But we'll move on now to another story. US President Barack Obama is, of course, scheduled to meet François Hollande in just a few hours' time. And it'll be a diplomatic test for Hollande, some of the papers think.
A diplomatic test for Hollande. And there's an article in The Guardian that's looking at relations between the two counterparts, because they disagree on the exit strategy from Afghanistan. But according to this article in The Guardian, Obama and Hollande are very similar in terms of personality and style. They're both from the center-left. They're both taught at universities, and even their policies are quite similar. For instance, they want to push for growth, tax the super-rich. And it's interesting to note that conservatives in the United States have been jumping on this because they want to show that Obama is a socialist, and so this opens doors to attacks from him from the right.
Okay, well, moving on again. An interesting statistic is coming out of the US this Friday as well.
Yes, there's an article in the Christian Science Monitor that says that according to the new census numbers coming out, for the first time in the country's history, white births are no longer the majority in the United States. Minorities, including Hispanics, blacks, Asians, and mixed race, have reached 50.4% of births. Now, even though this was somewhat expected, it's a milestone for the country because now minorities are the majority. And it comes at a time when issues of race, immigration, are still hot topics, and it raises important policy issues, especially concerning education.
Okay, now finally, the world has lost two divas today. We've been talking about this in some of our earlier news bulletins, Donna Summer and WADA.
There's a great article in Rolling Stone I really think you should read. It's full of love. It says, "Dim all the lights for Donna Summer." And it says that, to quote, after her song Bad Girls, nobody ever tried to claim disco sucked again. And it has lots of fun anecdotes. For instance, when David Bowie heard her song I Feel Love, he said that he was hearing the future. And as you mentioned, another great diva also died, Warda El Jazeera. Now, El Watan, the Algerian daily, pays tribute to her and says that her mother was Lebanese, her father was Algerian. She was born in France, but she found her home and her audience in Egypt. She had more than 300 songs to her name. She'd sold 20 million albums, and she will be sorely missed, as will Donna Summer.
Indeed. Goodbye to both of them. Thank you very much indeed, Florence Vimino, for that look at today's international newspapers.